Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Susanna, and welcome to the Kodeco Podcast. In this podcast, we'll keep you up to date with the latest app development tech talk. Now, here's the show.
This is the Kodeco Podcast. This episode was recorded on Sunday, the 29th of October, 2023. I'm your co-host, Jenn Bailey, with our host, Andrei Freeman.
Thanks, Jen. This episode, we're speaking with Eric van de Kerckhove, our game technologies team lead. He is also a hobbyist game developer with 20 years of experience, who's been primarily using Unity as his game engine of choice. Last year, he switched over to Godot, an open source game engine. Eric, welcome to the show. First of all, I'm sorry I mangled your name.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
After even asking you before we started the show, I was bound to mess that up. Is it Godot or is it Godot?
Well, I think it's Godot. There's
Okay.
a lot of
As in
discussion
waiting
online.
for.
Yeah, I was waiting for Godot. Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself. You're a game dev, and how did you wind up doing game dev?
So yeah, my name's Eric van de Kerckhove. I'm from Belgium. I have a wife and a young son. How it all started? Well, I was always fascinated by computers and technology in general from when I was quite young. I was interested in tech from I think I was 6 or 7, and I finally got a first we got a family computer once I think was 11 or 12 something, and from that point on I wanted to know how that worked, like what makes these applications work, what makes things move. So I looked into it, and yeah, back then I mean YouTube wasn't a thing. So I'm 34 now, so it's been a while. So yeah, lots of googling, and then I found out how to make applications. It's with programming, it's with code. So yeah, that's what I found out, and I started experimenting with code. I created small applications, really small games, just like riddle games. Like you had to there was a number and you had to say higher or lower until you had it, stuff like that. And then I started working with, well, I was also interested in games, also from even a younger age, like from when I was 4, I think, at a Sega Genesis. Here in Europe, it's called the Sega Mega Drive. Just, but yeah, so I was always interested in games as well. So I wanted to know how those worked. How do you make a game? Where do you start? And yeah, there were a lot of options even back then. And I took one of the more difficult options, I guess. That was Dark Basic. I dabbled with that somewhat. It's like an a 3D editor / scripting environment. Way over my head, to be honest. Yeah. But then I discovered Game Maker, and I've used Game Maker for I think 6 or 7 years, something like that, and it did work for me. So it was mostly drag and drop at the beginning. Yeah, I made really bad small games with it.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. You have to start somewhere, and I mean, if it kind of works, it's good enough when you're just starting out. So
That's funny you mentioned Dark Basic. I used to teach our introduction to programming class with Dark Basic because we could do some 2D drawing very easily. I haven't heard that for a long time.
Yeah, and I appreciate your start, because I also got my first computer when I was about 11. Granted, I'm a little older than you are, and
just a tad.
Just a tad. And at that point, we didn't even think about the term programming. We just had the computer, and I was very fortunate that there was a basic programming guide for the computer. But I mean, games My first game was actually called Math Fun, and it was a addition and subtraction quiz program. Oh, that is just that takes you back. So
Yeah.
I take it
Yeah.
from Dark Basic. Eventually, you made the transition to Unity.
Yeah. So around the time I switched to GameMaker at first, and I also started to create applications, like desktop applications for Windows. Yeah, just small applications, things to I don't know, mostly copying files over and very simple text editor, stuff like that. Even a very small chat application. So yeah, I think just to experiment. And then a few years later, um, first I discovered XNA actually before Unity. So there was a XNA, and there was a framework kind of deal made by Microsoft. It was mostly aimed at like indie game developers. I think the primary purpose of it was to create games for Xbox. But it also worked on Windows, so I didn't have an Xbox. So yeah, so I created small games with that, and that was quite low level as well. So that made me appreciate things like how to draw polygons, get started with my own particle system. How do you even draw a sprite? You have to load it from disk and all of that, and yeah, really low level. So to make a game with it almost seemed impossible because it was so low level. Yeah, but then I discovered Unity, and that was because XNA was at its end of its lifetime. Microsoft was about to retire it in that year or next year. So I was looking for an alternative, and that's when I found Unity, and it was wonderful.
So
yeah,
let's try to simplify things, because we get listeners of all uh, disciplines. We get them of all experience levels. How do we explain what Unity is?
So Unity is a game engine, and a game engine is basically a desktop application with an interface that you can use to place objects, manipulate them, like moving them, rotating them, scaling them. And you can add scripts to these objects that you can write with in programming language. So it's just a text file with some code in it, and that is run by that game engine. And the code can manipulate stuff within the game engine. You can talk to that game engine to make objects move, spawn player characters. You can press a button with it, show text, stuff like that.
And Unity is popular because it can then stamp out your game for many different game platforms.
Yeah, yeah. So it was quite well. It still is quite popular because it's ease of use. First of all, it uses a really popular programming language, C#. Yeah, there's just a lot of documentation and tutorials out there for Unity. So it's a good choice for beginners, basically. Yeah.
And Godot is a similar. It's a game engine. It does similar things. So
Yeah.
my understanding is that there's been sort of an unhappy Yelp over Unity lately.
Oh yeah, it's been going on for a while. Yeah.
Can you explain some of what's going on at Unity that has? Now I realize this is purely opinion and such, but
Yeah.
can you give me a rough idea?
What
So yeah,
happened?
their most recent how do you want to call this yeah
Travesty?
problem, issue, travesty. Yeah, travesty is a good word for it. Uh, so yeah, they had announced a new a big change to their pricing model.
Well, what had their pricing model been?
Basically, you had a personal edition. You could use it for free, but they had a splash screen they forced upon you. So you had to show it to your players. Then you had if I'm not mistaken, a Pro Edition and an Enterprise Edition. Yeah, I didn't use those, so I'm not entirely sure. But you could create games with those higher versions, like the Pro and Enterprise versions. Also, yeah, you had to pay to use those, but once you had your game, you were good. You could make money off of it. There wasn't any issues. I think up until a certain profit margin, and then you had to pay a
Right.
percentage or something. Yeah, that's all good. I mean, that's fair. I think Unreal Engine is something similar in place. But yeah, then well, yeah, shit hit the fan. Let's say when they announced that new pricing model. And that meant developers had to pay per install. Like they wanted to
Oh,
ask,
really?
yeah, they wanted to ask money for using their kind of installer framework. So that's that's the pitch they gave. That's the spin they gave it. So per, I think it was 20 cents or something that the developer had to pay per installation that the player did.
So the only way you could install a Unity game was with this Unity installer?
Well, kind of, yeah. I mean, you don't really need an installer, but I think every time you use their official installer, the developer had to pay for it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because I was trying to figure out how an iOS user or how, say, an Xbox user would know that they had sold a copy of the game.
Yeah, exactly. I think they had an IP based. I don't know how they knew it was a unique user. Because I think they even said it is per download. So even if you don't install it, it's per download. So if you run the game for the first time, the fee was applied or something. Yeah, it was super confusing, and yeah, it didn't go down well, as you can imagine. So
I can understand, especially for the younger, more independent developers who are just trying to
yeah,
get their feet wet and just starting with their first games. They don't necessarily have that gravity well to pull their game into popularity.
yeah. I mean, those developers and also the mobile developers. I think those were the ones that were mostly targeting. I mean, they wanted the cut of the pie, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of mobile games they rely on in-app purchases and ads for their revenue. So they're not, yeah, they don't ask a initial price for per game install. And Unity wanted some way to still get money out of that. So yeah, I know, it felt really scummy.
And if
So
I remember correctly, the CEO had a rather set of choice, unfriendly words toward the indie developers.
oh yeah, that was last year. Yeah, he called them all I think all idiots. All the ones that
Wow.
that didn't incorporate monetization into the games, he called them idiots. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not good to insult your user base, even if they're
No.
free, because no, not a good plan. So how did you come across Godot?
Oh, good question. I knew about Godot for a few years already. I think every few years, even when I was using Unity and I loved Unity, I was still looking around to the alternatives. Like even like Game Maker, I was looking back at what are they doing now? Have there been any improvements? I was looking at Unreal Engine, and that's how I came across Godot. Like in a big list of what game engines to try now, and yeah, at first I wasn't yeah, I don't know, I didn't want to try it at first. It was quite different, and yeah, I don't like who likes change, you know. So I don't know. I was familiar with Unity. I liked it back then. But I knew of Godot. Yeah, I was keeping like one eye, looking at it. Yeah.
What were
But
the
yeah,
features that sold you on it?
it wasn't Unity. So basically, when I switched over, that was one of the biggest things. Yeah, my relation with Unity as a game engine was kind of dwindling for a few reasons. Like one of the first was that stupid splash screen they kept forcing. I don't know. Every year of every game I made, I was getting more and more annoyed by it. Um, it's also one of the main reasons like Unity has a bad rep. Um, just
Well,
because of that.
when all of this broke, didn't their stock tank?
Oh yeah, it did. It I don't know, more than 10% it was down. Yeah,
Ooh.
of course. Yeah. And funny thing is, I think a week before that happened, the CEO sold a lot of his stock. So it's as if he knew that there was something brewing. Yeah. Even more scummy. Yeah. Yeah. All around. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to throw too many curse words around, but yeah,
All
isn't
right, so
the isn't the best of guys,
so say I'm a practice Unity developer, and I want to make that switch to Godot.
Yeah.
What's the same, and obviously, what's different?
Well, they're both game engines. So yeah, I mean that's important. They're both like general game engines. They can both handle 3D graphics. They can both handle 2D sprites. The biggest difference I think between them is well, Unity is better in terms of 3D. Well, if you want to have like high-end, beautiful 3D scenes, Unity is still the better choice. But Godot is catching up. I mean, especially with the latest version, Godot 4. There have been massive improvements in terms of 3D. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. You can make a user interface. You can make 2D things jump around. Yeah, it's about the same. So that's why I like it. I mean, there isn't a huge there isn't that huge of a difference when jumping from Unity to Godot, at least for people like me. Like, so I'm a hobbyist and like indie developer, so I don't need those fancy graphics. It was also one of the reasons I started to hate Unity because there was such a focus on having these beautiful graphics that requires a lot of work from a developer. So you almost need a dedicated graphics team to pull that off,
Mm-hmm.
those graphics. So why would I care? I'm alone by myself. My 3D models aren't that detailed. I can make some animations and some like particles and stuff, but they won't look as pretty as the things that Unity was showing. So
So it was overkill.
yeah, it was massive overkill. Well, for me at least, yeah. I wanted them to work on the core engine and improve things from like the basics, things that the community was asking for years now. Yeah.
All right, so does Godot also use C sharp?
Well, it can. So it's the primary programming language for Godot is GDScript. It's like it's kind of like Python. It's a programming language especially made for Godot, especially made for game development.
How
But yeah, it can.
similar is it to Python?
Oh, super similar. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you know Python, there's a good chance you can just write GDScript as if it's nothing. Yeah, yeah. It's a bit less advanced. So some parts are missing that are there in Python, but most of the basics are there. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, C sharp. Godot has C sharp support. And it's being improved. You can definitely use C# today if you want to. But it's limited, as in you can't export to all platforms with it at the moment.
You can't
You can do, like you can't do web builds. You can't make a build for the web. You can't make a game build for mobile platforms with C# and Godot. So it's kind of limiting. It's good for desktop applications, desktop games, but you're kind of limited to those for now. Yeah, I mean, I have been using C#. I've used it for one application made with Godot, but that's about it. And it was a joy because I love C#. It's my favorite programming language by far. But yeah, I mean,
me too.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I like Kotlin, of course, but C# is an old favorite because I used to be a C# desktop application developer.
Oh, awesome.
I think it's a beautiful language.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I mean, I'm so used to it. It's almost nostalgic for me. I've been using it since I was 12, 13. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been evolving since then, and it always had my back, I guess. So yeah, I like it. But yeah, I would love to use C# in Godot. I mean, there are plans of once .NET 8, I think, comes out or is stable. They'll be using that. And once they use .NET 8, they will be able to make, you will be able to make web builds and mobile builds using C#. At that point, I'll probably jump ship to C# again. Yeah.
All right. So you've kicked off a question that I love to ask. So it's coming now, and that is, now you've been using Godot for a while. Mm-hmm. What features would you like to see added in that aren't necessarily on the apparent futures line? What features are missing that would make you happier? As if there were Godot programmers listening in.
As in something I would want in Godot, right? Or
yes.
Yeah. So definitely that C#. that's first place, really high. Like, yeah, get that C# going. Get full support for it. I know they're working on it. I saw the lead developer Juan talking about how they're going to reintegrate C# into the engine. Mm-hmm. And once that's done, I mean, yeah, things will be golden, especially for people like me who really prefer C#. People who came from Unity. I mean, yeah, then you can just reuse almost all of your skills, and you just need to relearn the engine, and that's it.
But other than that, it's perfect.
Well, for me, it's perfect. I mean, no language is perfect. But yeah, I mean, I don't have many gripes with C#. Yeah.
No, I meant the game engine in general.
The game engine. No, it's not perfect. No, definitely not. No. I mean, and the code editor is kind of basic. So Godot has a built-in code editor, which is quite nice. I mean, there aren't many game engines out there that have that feature. But it's missing some. I don't know. It's missing some of the things I really like about code editors, like it has code completion, really rudimentary code completion, basic code completion, but it doesn't work all the time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's one thing, because GDScript has something called what is it? I'm using static typing, but I've lost the other type of typing. So like you're really loose typing. I'm not sure that's not the right term probably, but you have like loose typing. So you just say variable hello is 1, for example, but you don't specify the type. And later on, when you want to say, okay, I want to do something with this hello variable, the engine doesn't know what it is. It might be a string, it might be an integer, it might be whatever.
So there's no type safety in the compiler.
Well, not by default, but you can type. And you can use typing, and it's what I recommend as well. Use static typing from day one. Once you start using Godot, use static typing. Yeah. For one, it makes your code more readable. It also helps with performance. So the engine is more performant because it also already knows what type it is. And the auto-completion will work a lot better. So that's one thing.
So one thing programmers talk about, and this always drives me nuts, is that the language is very easy to learn, and almost any programming language is easy to learn. But then the primitives, the frameworks.
Yeah.
Obviously, from Unity to Godot, the things don't have the same names.
No, definitely
How
not.
how is the learning curve on what things are called? Shapes, sprites, etc.
Well, documentation of Godot is quite good. So I've been using that as a reference mostly, and I also took a look at some of the basic YouTube tutorials out there just to get an idea. But yeah, I mean, you're always going to have that with any engine, any framework. The names will be different, but I don't know. It's kind of cool, I guess. Especially now more people. No, sorry. Now more people from Unity have been switching to Godot. So there are more resources out there for Unity developers switching over. For example, I've created an article. I wrote an article some time ago that goes over some of these similarities and changes, both like the user interface similarities, changes, as in, and also some of the code similarities and some of the other concepts, like you have events, like you have a lot of types of events in Unity, and there's just one big I don't want to call it replacement, but alternative in Godot, signals. And I love signals. I really do. So yeah.
Are there any other things from Godot? Are there any other things from Unity that you miss in Godot?
Yeah, there's one big thing, or big feature, and that's being able to see, like, it's really hard to explain. Being able to, yeah, I know, being able to see the game while you're running it, and that's, yeah, okay, that just sounds seeing what the game is doing in your editor while the game is running. Yeah, I hope that's more clear. Yeah. So like in Unity, you can run your game and then have an like a scene view. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. The scene view, where you can see your objects, your game objects running about. You can inspect them. You can change their values. That's really it's super helpful, especially if you have like a game. You have a camera view on a few objects, but you have a whole world out there, or maybe you have multiple rooms, and you want to check out what's going on in the other rooms that the player can't see. So the camera isn't looking towards it, and that's something you can do with Godot. You can't. Yeah, that's a shame. So you can run your game. It will pop up in a new window and it will run, and it's cool. But the only thing you can do is access the node tree. So Godot uses nodes instead of game objects, so it's a node-based system, a hierarchy of nodes. And you can take a look at those remote nodes, Godot calls it, so the nodes inside that game window. But that's only like a big list, a big hierarchy, and you can edit the values, but you don't see anything. You can't see where that object is or what it is doing. So yeah, it's a big shame, and I'm afraid they wouldn't be. Yeah, from what I've read, there's no way they're gonna be implementing that, like a similar system. Don't think it's possible.
So how long have
Now,
you been?
if you,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry, Drew.
No,
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, all right, if you have an existing project in Unity, can you import and use some of that into Godot?
Great question. Mostly no, as in you. Um, how? Wow, that's a difficult one. There are applications out there that you can use to convert most of it. Like you could have you can't convert it one on one to one, but it can convert like the scene hierarchy, that whole tree from Unity to a node tree in Godot to the best of its abilities, but it won't be great, and you'll be missing the code as well because Unity is C sharp, and that's the whole framework is different, the API, so it will be but you can use the assets. I mean, that's something. So all of your sprites, 3D models, most of them are compatible. So Godot takes most of the same formats as Unity. So
Oh, great.
yeah, there won't be a possibility, at least not yet, as far as I'm aware, to just convert a Unity game to Godot. Yeah, just partially, just a small part. Yeah.
So how long have you been on Godot now?
A year and 2 months. Yeah.
Do you feel that your acumen as a programmer has changed due to this transition or matured, or how do you feel that you have changed as a programmer?
Not so much. I mean, I'm still the same. I mean, it's mostly the iteration cycle that's faster for me now. So I think differently. It's also much less of a hurdle for me now to open my game engine than it was with Unity. So it's all much quicker. If I think about something random, I want to experiment, I see something, I want to give it a shot, or think about something in the shower, I want to give it a shot a few minutes later. I can do that now quite quickly without any issues, just a few minutes, and there we go. With Unity, it was always, I don't know, if I wanted to start a new project, it takes a while to load. It has to load all its little packages. When I write scripts, it has to compile them, and it's always such a pain. So yeah.
So you find Godot development a lot quicker?
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't at the start, of course, because I was still getting used to Godot. But now that I know its its way of working, I guess it's quite fast. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So you're approaching this from the point of view as an indie hobbyist developer, not a corporate EA style developer.
No, no, that's not me.
Do you think that this is going to overall change the landscape? Do you think that there'll be a mass migration, or do you think people will just suck it up, stay with Unity if they've been on it? And how do you feel it's going to change the landscape over the next few years?
Well, I think a lot of people have already jumped ship, so to speak. Like I think last year a lot of people migrated to Godot. This year a ton of people migrated to Godot after that travesty. So I don't know. I think Godot is going to keep growing now. Unity is gonna slowly shrink, but it's gonna be a really slow process. Godot is gonna gain popularity, I think. Well, it is gaining. I know it's gaining popularity for a fact. And with that, I mean, there'll be more funds going towards Godot. There will be more companies maybe helping out Godot to get things done. Maybe with C# support, maybe Microsoft can chime in and come help out a bit. I don't know. It would be cool. And yeah, I mean, Unity is gonna stay popular, I think. I mean, it is quite easy to use, and one of my major gripes, though, that splash screen that isn't forced anymore. So yeah, so with their whole excuse, wow. yeah. So with their backpedaling came another cool thing, I guess. Finally, after years of asking, They removed it, yeah. So it
So
isn't
Unity
mandatory anymore.
backpedaled on a lot of this stuff that they.
Oh yeah. So all of those changes were undone, basically, and the CEO was fired, or so, so yeah. So that's good. Well, I guess. But how do you trust a company like that? I mean, I can't. I won't get it.
Mhm.
If
Now
you,
you said
especially if
maybe.
you've been loyal, yeah.
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 Now you said that maybe Microsoft would help with Godot. Is this something that is Godot small enough that Microsoft might even consider purchasing?
Oh, I hope not. Oh man, I didn't even think about that. No, please, no. I mean, Microsoft is pretty cool. Maybe this is a weird take, but yeah, I mean, I think Microsoft has done a lot of good stuff in these last few years, actually, like with GitHub and so on. But no, they shouldn't touch Godot. No. Um, it's a, I mean, it's a non-profit organization that's
Mhm.
behind Godot. It's mostly community built, so no, please. If you're
Is it
hearing this, Microsoft, just help it, leave it alone, okay?
is Godot open source?
Yeah, totally open source. Yeah.
Oh,
Every bit of it,
so I
and
take
that's
it
yeah.
there's no entry fee to use Godot.
No, none at all. No, everyone can just use it. Well, how they please, and they can edit the engine. I know Sonic Colors, I think. Yeah. Sonic Colors, yeah. They used Godot years back, but they a heavily edited version of Godot. So it's one of the of the few big companies that used Godot. But yeah, anyone can use it and can contribute to it if they want to, if they can. Um, yeah, it's free.
So are when you're doing game development, not just Godot, but any game
Mhm.
development, are you working predominantly in 2D or 3D?
Ah, huh. Um, Good question. I think most of my career, whatever you want to call it, I've been steering towards 3D mostly. I think I prefer 3D. Yeah. But now with Godot, I've been mostly making 2D stuff, and up until now. And not
Does
because
good
yeah,
Go
it
ahead.
can do 3D. Yeah, it can definitely do 3D, but yeah.
Is
Oh,
there
sorry.
going back to the whole Unity Godot comparison? Does one platform lend itself better to one of those than the other?
Mm, I mean, it can do well. Both game engines can do 2D and 3D very
Hmm.
good, very well. Um, I think the biggest difference is if you want to have like a beautiful next gen 3D scenes, like with all the bells and whistles, all the details,
Hmm.
uh, all of the graphics power you need to throw at it as well. But yeah, then you probably want to use Unity or even better Unreal Engine, probably. I mean, if you're a big company, if you're a big studio, you'll probably want to use Unreal Engine if you're
Because
making a game like that. Yeah.
that's where you get your hyper reality.
Oh yeah. That's the king of graphics. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So are Unity
Unity's
and
somewhere stuck in between. I mean, that's how I feel. Yeah, moment.
so what do you mean stuck in between?
In terms of 3D like graphics fidelity, I guess. Like Godot is you can make beautiful 3D scenes with Godot. They just won't be hyper realistic and use the newest technologies. And Unity has a lot of modern tech behind it now. But Unreal Engine is just like next gen. It's the yeah best of the best.
Now we haven't really talked about it, but is there any I'm trying to find the best way to word this thing. Is there any possibility that somebody writes their own game engine? Or
I
is
mean, yeah,
or is
yeah.
Godot really the current open source pool for people who want to write a game engine?
There are lots of game engines out there. Yeah. I mean, Godot and Unity and Unreal and GameMaker are just the most popular ones that I know of. But there are tons of game engines out there, open source as well. Yeah.
I take it the advantage is that you can, as I said earlier, stamp it out for multiple platforms because they've got all that information already worked out.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there are some caveats with Godot. And it is because it is open source, they can't include the closed source code that's needed to bind to make the glue for like the consoles, like for the PlayStation, Xbox, and so on. So you can directly export to those platforms. But I mean, with Unity, it's not that simple either.
So what platforms can you export for out of the box with Godot?
Windows, macOS, Linux, a web export, HTML5, that is. Android, iOS. Let's see, am I missing anything? I think that's about it. So yeah, that's about it. Yeah. Yep. So no consoles, no, not out of the box. No.
But can you do console
yeah.
development if you have the console, if you purchase the console kit?
No, not with Godot. Not that I know of, not at this time. You actually need to speak to one of the partnering companies. So you have like a few small companies for each that do the porting for you. So yeah, it's a bit of a hassle if you really want to target those platforms, those consoles. Yeah, you either need to contact those companies when you're working with Godot, or you can use Unity or Unreal Engine. Yeah. So I'm not sure if Godot is the best pick for consoles at this moment.
But then again, if you're manufacturing for consoles, you're manufacturing a big meaty game.
Maybe not. I mean, you have like Switch games that are kind of, well, you have a lot of indie games for a Switch as well. Some of them made with Godot even. So I mean, it's possible. Just takes a bit more work, I guess, a bit more communicating. Yeah. But with Unity, and well, from what I've heard, with Unity isn't that simple as well. I mean, you could just buy a dev kit, but it's often easier for a small indie studio to also contact one of those porting companies, or the ones that already have the dev kits and the experience with those consoles, and especially the publishers. And it's a lot of work to get a game out on a console. So yeah, and not that I have any personal experience, but from what I've read and heard, anyway. Yeah.
Well, let's turn around and talk about your personal experience then. So, what kind of games have you written on Godot?
Well, not many.
Have you finished any? Have you finished any projects?
I have a lot of prototypes. No, but I have one. I have one finished game. That's a small, well, finished, kind of finished, good enough finished. What is finished anyway, right? It works. It gets played. So I mean, yeah. But I have a small game I made for my son. He's 2.5 now, and he enjoys it. So it's like a super simple game where you have a few machines to pick from, like an excavator and a bulldozer, I think, and it just drives around on a screen like 2D. It drives around from screen to screen with some simple backdrops, and he likes it. And then at the end, there's a car wash the machine goes into, and then I've made a small mini game. So the machine gets dirtier and dirtier, with lots of small patches of dirt on it. And then at the end, you can wash it by tapping the dirt, and then a big old like a sponge gets over it, and lots of soap bubbles pop out, and yeah, it's he loves it. Yeah, so that's one project I finished. Kind of a small kids game.
What project is ever finished?
I mean, yeah, when it's finished, right? You can keep working on a project. Yeah, I mean, if it gets
Projects are
enjoyed,
due, never done.
yeah, that's right. So I do have one other project. That's an application to convert from PDF to like a PDF character sheet to a virtual tabletop character sheet.
Oh,
It's yeah, it's for Foundry virtual tabletop that I made that, and it was mostly, I mean, it started out as a desktop application 5 years ago or something like that, and then I took all of the code, so it was C#. I took all of that code and yeah, I mean, kind of converted to Godot's C#. So it was written fully in C#. And yeah, that project was a blast to work on because it uses C#. but yeah, I mean, that was finished and that is out now. It gets I update it now and then. If people tell me there's something wrong with it, I check it and fix it. And I use it myself as well. So it's something. It's not a game, but it is a project that's working.
Hey,
Okay.
that's project.
Go ahead.
All right. So say someone wanted to try Godot in game development for their very first time. What kind of a project would you recommend someone taking on that's a small enough scope that to learn with?
Well, that's one of the most common questions I think from starting developers. And I had some answers ready like for years, but now, I mean, things have changed a bit. Well, but first of all, just keep the project small. So once you've learned the basics of a game engine, your very first project should be like tiny small. Like think of the smallest game you can imagine, and then even smaller. Yeah, that's the size of the.
I'm old enough that I think I think of Pong.
Yeah, Pong. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. Pong, Breakout, Asteroids. Like, keep it simple, because the most important skill set you want to have is how do you finish a game? Like, that's a skill in itself, finishing a game. Because I know a lot of people, myself included, have a whole graveyard of prototypes. Things you had a lot of motivation for at the beginning, but then it dwindled, and oh man, that thing came, and now you had a few weeks you couldn't work on it, and now you don't feel like it, but you'll finish it one time, and time was a few years ago, and
I think the art of finishing a game is the art of actually having a good feature set defined. Yeah. If I know I want the game to have these 5 or 6 features, and yeah, you can sit there along the way and go, oh, I forgot it needs to do X. That's not feature creep. That was missing a feature that's necessary. But if you can tick the boxes and say, I've hit the features, you can say, I finished this stage of a game. And I think a lot of programmers lose sight of the fact that if they know what their feature set is, I mean, I've got my indie project that I've been working on for years, and it always comes down to what is the new feature? What does it need to do? And I find myself lost when I'm either in between features or I've got a feature that I'm working on that's just incredibly boring.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds familiar. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's most of the times what people tend to do, again, myself included, is work on the features you like the most. So that will be the most exciting to work on. And then those features that you don't really like or are boring tasks will be the last ones. And yeah.
For me, it's those last difficult bugs that you just can't figure out why. And it's like most of it works, but in this rare instance, I'll have a problem I can't quite duplicate every time, and those drive me crazy.
Exactly. See, this is why even if you're working solo, you need to use source control management.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because definitely. If you break something, you can always go back in SCM and say, when did it last work?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I have some personal experience with the lack of source control, so yeah.
Does Godot have any kind of source control management, or can you
You can easily use Git. Yeah. I mean, all of the files that Godot uses are text-based. Like the project files are text-based, so not your assets, of course. But yeah, all the scenes are just basically text files. So it's very easy to push them out to GitHub or whatever you want, and make some changes, and you'll see exactly what was added or removed just in text form. So
and in text
really
form
nice.
you can basically hack Godot as well.
Those scenes, you mean, or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's also easy if you want to do something in bulk. You need to you need to add hundreds of nodes. Yeah, you can just edit this text file, add everything you want, save it, load Godot again, and whoop, there it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. But yeah, I really want to circle back to your other question. Like, how do you start? Yeah, no problem. I just really like that question. Like, I think it was Jen's question actually.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, start small, really small. And another thing that I discovered a few months ago was a website. It's called 20 Games Challenge. Yeah,
yes, I don't know if we can put that link in the show notes.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's a different approach, and it's actually well, you're not totally on your own with this approach. So it's a challenge, self-imposed challenge it is. So the website has a few rules, but I mean, if you follow them or not, that's really up to you, right? And you have a time limit also of your own choosing. So it's about 20 hours of actual work on the game, and then at the end it's finished. Well, it should be finished. Or you just you get these 20 hours, you see what you can get, how far you can get, and then you move on. It's also what you can do. And the good thing about this is you don't need a full game. You don't need to create the full game. For example, if you create a level of like a breakout game. So I don't know if any listeners that don't know what breakout is, but you have this pedal and a ball, and you have to hit blocks at the top of the screen until all blocks are gone. It's kind of like a single player Pong, kind of, but with blocks you have to hit instead of empty space. Yeah.
I think it wounds me to believe that there are listeners who don't know what breakout is. That just
but I don't know.
I remember playing that on DOS like many years ago.
I remember playing that in the arcade.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I had it on PC, but not the original breakout, but some clones. I don't know. There was a really cool open source clone. That's I can't for the life of me remember what it was. It was on Linux as well. But yeah, so I've been playing that mostly. Yeah, so this 20 games challenge, I mean, it sounds so cool. So like you have this 20, well, the goal is really to finish about 10 of these 20 games. Mm-hmm. The most important part is just getting experience. Like all of these games, the list is really, well, all of these games are vastly different. You have like a Minecraft type of game, or it starts with Pong game, or it gets progressively more advanced, and that way you learn all these skills, and you only need to make a vertical slice. So you only need like one level. You don't need to create a full game with 20, 30 levels. Just create one level, make sure that gameplay works, and you're good. Then you have your game.
So can you also tell me about game jams?
Oh yeah, I love game jams. So I've been joining a lot of game jams since 2014, 2013.
What are they?
There are events that people join and make games together and separately. Like you can either go in alone or with a team, and everyone makes their games. Most of the time you always have a time limit. I mean, you can't have an infinite game jam, but well, maybe that. No. So you have either So it's mostly between 24 hours, something like that, up to about a month of time you get. And at the end of this time frame, everyone submits their games, and you can play each other's games. Sometimes as a jury. Sometimes you get rated on certain aspects of your game, like how is your gameplay, how is the sound, how is the graphics. And sometimes there are even prizes, but I've never won a prize. But I
How
just joined.
common?
I just joined for fun. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
yeah.
say, how common is it at a game jam that people finish a game in the time limit? Because I know with hackathons, a lot of times we end up pitching our idea because we don't get very far on the implementation.
Yeah. I don't know the percentages, but yeah, certainly not all games get finished. No, some games
And
just get submitted as is. Yeah.
Would you recommend a game jam for someone who's new to development? Do you think that they would benefit from the experience as well as someone who's had a little more experience?
Yeah, both types of people would benefit, but I'm not sure if all kinds of people would enjoy game jams. Mostly because it has a time limit. You also get a team you have to adhere to. So you get a lot of limitations, and limitations are great for some people, but not so good for others. But yeah, but limitations in itself are actually excellent, because it breeds creativity. The more limitations you have for a project, the more creativity you have to use. So actually, it's a boost for game creation. Well, for any creation. Yeah, set limits. Yeah, make it only 2D. Make it only black and white. Have only one type of enemy. Have only one screen. I don't know. Time limit 30 seconds. Let's go. Yeah, that all helps. That all helps a lot. Yeah.
You look like you're already in the mode to go.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna make a game. Yeah. Yeah.
So now let's turn back and talk about Godot being open source. Yeah. Have you worked on the actual Godot program yourself?
No. So the engine itself is written in C++. Yeah, and I just have no experience with C++. Yeah, I would love to if I was able to, but yeah.
Are there other ways developers can contribute to Godot as an open source project?
Yeah, report bugs. So which I have done also. So you can go onto their GitHub, and if you notice any glaring bugs, anything if the editor crashes because you did something, report it. Make a detailed report of what happens, what are the steps to reproduce it, and that'll help out the developers a lot. Yeah, definitely. Also, there's a suggestions GitHub as well. So they have a suggestions GitHub repo where they take all people's suggestions and maybe they'll do something with it. I mean, it's a huge backlog at this point. So of course. Apart from that, yeah, helping others out also helps the community as a whole. So they have a subreddit, they have a Discord. You can help people out on their forums. Yeah, that's just more time the developers have to work on the engine, less time they have to.
And as an open source project, obviously, money is a nice thing that they can use.
I mean, money is always nice, but yeah. So yeah, they do take donations, indeed. Yeah. So yeah, they're a non-profit organization, so they can't ask money for their product, but they do take donations. And they use these donations to buy hardware like MacBooks, VR hardware, other specific hardware, just to see if everything is working as it should, and to develop new features as well for specific to this hardware. Yeah.
So I'm gonna change gears. I am told that besides doing 3D apps, you also do 3D printing.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That's something totally totally different.
I said I was gonna
Yeah.
change gears.
Yeah. You warned us. So. Yeah. I do 3D printing as well.
How long?
Wow, it's been a while. I think it's 6 years now.
Very nice.
Yeah, I have four 3D printers, like two FDM printers and two resin printers. And,
Oh wow, you have 4 printers.
Yeah, like two that print like as if you were squeezing out toothpaste. Yeah, FDM printers, and then maybe you're already familiar with 3D printers, but and then these resin printers that work with UV light to harden layer by layer. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. What kind of stuff have you done?
Mostly practical things, like I don't know. I hope I don't knock anything
Please,
over.
go ahead.
So I don't know. Is it? Can you see this?
Is a mobile?
oh, very nice.
Is it a mobile stand?
Yeah, it's just a phone stand, and it has like these integrated holes, so you can. So I put my USB-C cable through it, and I can charge it while it's in there.
That's awesome.
I also have. I don't know. Do I have anything here? Yeah, this is super simple in shape, but this is let's see. This is just for a headset. So I attach this to the bottom of my desk, and this is just a hook for.
It's very clever.
Very nice.
Those of you who are just listening to the podcast, obviously watch the YouTube version of this when it comes out, since you can see these. They're kind of nifty things.
I also create. I can't show you, but I have the monitors in front of me. So I have like three monitors in front of me. Each one has a dedicated monitor stand at a certain height, and I designed and printed those myself as well.
Fantastic.
Because I
Very
was
nice.
annoyed by the difference, because there are 3 different screens. So
I've just sort of given up on that one. I have my laptop screen at one level, I have my main screen at another, and then I have my portrait screen over there, and people are like, "He has 3 screens. That's too many."
Yeah, what's this? Yeah. So I've made these stands. I also create miniatures. So with the resin printers, I create these tiny
D&D.
Yeah, D&D miniatures. Yeah, tiny adventures
nice.
and monsters.
Again, I like Breakout. I hope that most of our listeners know what D&D is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Dungeons and D&D Dungeons and Dragons, like the tabletop RPG. Yeah.
If they've seen Stranger Things,
that's
a modern show that has talked about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. So this always leads to one of my favorite questions. We take your hands off the keyboard. We take you away from the computer. What do you do for fun?
I also game, but that's also behind the keyboard.
Okay.
But apart from that, I also dabble with electronics. So
Raspberry Pi?
Raspberry Pi, yeah, I have a few. Also in combination with those 3D printers. So they're all connected to Raspberry. Well, the FDM printers, big ones, are connected to Raspberry Pi, so I can control them from a distance over the network. Nice. They use Clipper, for anyone that knows. I don't know. If you know, you know. I don't know.
That's like scratching a little itch in the back of my brain. Why do I know that? Tell me what Clipper is.
So it's an alternative firmware for 3D printers. Well, when it was alternative, now it is becoming more mainstream, I guess. Mm-hmm. So more and more printers come with Clipper out of the box. And with Clipper, you have a separate board. Mm-hmm. In the case of dumb old printers, it's an Arduino. It's a Raspberry Pi, and that sends the sends the commands to the main board of the printer. Instead of having to do all the processing on a tiny dumb board in the printer itself, it can do the heavy lifting on a tiny computer basically. So everything runs smooth, really smooth. Yeah.
So you do a little bit of electronics as well.
Yeah. Also, yeah. I also work with Arduinos, so little bit of programming also. But yeah, that's again with the keyboard. So, but I also do soldering, like solder things, solder components together.
Do you do the micro components? Because I have had no luck.
I hate micro components. No, I have kind of a stable hand, but I hate it. It's like the
You're just like trying to brush on the solder on this this 3 millimeter point.
Yeah. It's almost impossible for me. It's too hard.
I watch the videos on YouTube, and I'm like, I have no idea how you people do this stuff.
I mean, I do have a microscope. I have like a digital microscope, just so I could do it and look at like these tiny components, but. Yeah, I look at them, but that's it. Yeah.
Microscope would just show me how badly I'm not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See this tiny component, and then this soldering iron that's like a giant tower. Yeah, it's no, it's too difficult.
So, any activities outside of the house?
No. You're putting me on the spot now. No.
You're in good company.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, have you heard about what I do? I don't know. Yeah, even my day job is also his side, and yeah. I mean, I do some cycling now and then, and
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's with an e-bike, so it's not that healthy. Yeah, so I like tinkering with the e-bike as well.
I keep looking into those because I like bicycling, but obviously. I don't like pedaling.
Same. I like going forwards. I don't like movement. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just purchased one recently, like a few months ago, something like that. But yeah, I do love tinkering with it. It kind of just feels basically like an electric moped, something like that. More like than a bicycle for me, but I mean, I like mopeds and I ride a motorcycle as well, so I like the feeling. It's better than walking, that's for sure. So yeah.
I have a scooter.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I enjoy that very much.
Jenn has an elliptical that she keeps hidden.
Yeah.
How so?
The sheet. Yeah, I like and it's pointed at a television, and so I'm kind of an indoor exerciser. I go outside to walk my dogs, but other than that, I mostly exercise indoors.
I mean, it's more exercise than I do for the most part. So, I mean, I call VR. Well, playing in VR, I call exercise as well. So, depending on the game.
Yeah, I think that counts.
If I'm tired,
I used to count Dance Revolution.
Yeah. I think I play, what is it, Beat Saber and Pistol Whip and.
Oh, I love Beat Saber. Beat Saber for a while was my exercise for a while.
Oh yeah.
I do half an hour of Beat Saber and just be like done.
Yeah, I still love it. Yeah.
And obviously, for those of you listening, Beat Saber is a VR game where you're basically having blocks fly at you, and you're cutting them in half because your hand controllers turn into lightsabers.
Yeah. So nice.
It's such a wonderful game. All right, before we hit our we have sort of a seasonal question we ask from season to season. Jenn, do you have anything else you'd like to ask that you've come up with?
Not that I can think of, no.
We had a little script on our side to help us jog with questions, and I always thank our other co-host Susanna Skyer-Gupta for the amazing research that she does. But this season we're asking a question, and that is, things are really stressful right now, and world events are kind of a mess. How do you keep calm? How do you just try not to be upset all the time?
I don't know, maybe I am upset all the time. No, but no, well, it's such a difficult question, really. Well, sometimes I'm a bit upset, but I don't know. I mean, everyone is at times, but what I try to do, and this is probably going to sound weird for some people, but I try to avoid watching and reading the news. That's like first line of defense. I mean, I do know like the most important events worldwide. I do see some things, and I heard things, and I have colleagues that talk to me, and I don't know, and friends and stuff. So I do know there's a lot going on, but I won't actively seek out the news. So I won't. Yeah, you'll never catch me like watching the news on TV or reading articles. No.
There's a reason they refer to Facebook as doom scrolling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Really. Yeah. Yeah. No, I always get anxious.
But what helps you relax? What kind of things do you do?
Well, I hang out with people. So
That's great.
hanging out, cool. Yeah. So
it's so nice to be post-pandemic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't that big of honestly, it wasn't that big of an issue for me mostly, but I don't know, even for someone like me that likes to sit inside was still painful at times. Yeah, I mean, I do like having a drink now and then, and doing it alone is kind of sad. So,
what's your choice of drink?
Beer, mostly dark beers, triple. I don't know, maybe I don't know if that's like a universal term. Like triple, that's like kind of heavy blonde beer. I also like stouts, dark ales. Yeah, I especially like the ones that have like some sweeter undertones, like chocolate and caramel. Also smoky beers. I also like those a lot. But yeah, I live in Belgium, so we're like the beer country. So there's a lot of choice here. I can always bring back something new, and what I love to do is drink a bottle or two with my brother. So I go with the e-bike over to my brother's house, and I take a few bottles with me, and then we play games all night. We just experiment with like new indie games that came out that can be played co-op, and we drink beer and we talk, and yeah, it's just a fun night. Yeah, that's what I like to do to relax. Yeah, it's one of the things I like. Yeah.
I recently got hooked on a game called Azul, which is a board game where you're basically collecting tiles. It's great fun.
Oh, board games. Yeah, I also like board games, actually.
That does sound fun.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, I do like board games. Unfortunately, I don't get the chance to play them a lot, so it's kind of hard to get people together now. Most of my friends have kids now, young kids. I think they all had kids at the same time about last year,
and it happened that way.
Yeah, I mean, I was the first, and then a year later, all of my friends had kids, and now, yeah.
Now you said yours is 2.5.
Yeah.
Aww.
Still young. Are you getting sleep?
Yeah. No.
Oh no.
A little. Yeah, it's definitely a lot better than it was. About a year and a half ago. So yeah, things have improved for the better. But yeah, I don't know. It depends. I have a bit of sleep. I also love D&D, by the way. Like that's one of the reasons I have these figurines lying around.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Oh man, I love it. I started with D&D in I think it was 2018, something like that. And since then, I've been trying to play at least once a month, and more if I can. Yeah.
How big is your party?
My current party is 5 people. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, and now
Nice.
I'm a player in that party. Yeah. I've also been DMing, like being a dungeon master, so like the game master a lot.
Mhm.
Actually love that. I really love being a dungeon master. It's, yeah. I don't know. There's something special about being a dungeon master and being the world, like being the world and its characters and everyone, just everyone except for the players. Like it's so cool to be the one to shape that world for them and to see them smile, and yeah. Nice.
How well do you handle it when they go off book?
Oh, great! Yeah, I love improvising. Oh yeah, they're always surprised. Huh? How? I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, I'll just take a moment to read something or to look something up. Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'm just gonna look something up and try to fill in the part of the cave that you weren't supposed to go into.
Yeah. Oh yeah, my players have done some crazy stuff. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And yeah, they went back. I think in one of the beginner campaigns, like the one. I won't spoil anything for anyone that's playing that campaign. Like the one from the Mines of Van Delver, it's called. Like you're in Vendelin, small town, and you have to fix some things. I won't spoil what you have to do there, what happens there, but some stuff is going down. You're getting some trouble. And normally the players have to solve the issues right there and then, and stay in the town, talk to the people. But instead they traveled all the way back to the first city they started in to get reinforcements. And when I thought about it, it was actually logical that you would do that. I mean, in real life, you would probably, if you have, if there's a real trouble, you would probably go back and get more people. But it was so. Yeah, it wasn't in the book. I can tell you that. Yeah.
So
I have
to ask this: the native language of Belgium is Flemish. Is that correct?
Actually, we have 2 languages. So there are 3 languages. Yeah. So we have Dutch, French, and German. It's a really small part of the country speaks German.
When you do D&D, what language are you playing in?
Dutch. So the dialect version. So Flemish is the dialect, Belgian dialect version of Dutch. So yeah, Flemish. Yeah. With some English sprinkled about for a lot of terms. I did use English for some of the sessions I did, but it felt unnatural because everyone around the table is just Flemish, and then there's me like doing a dwarf voice in English, and yeah, it felt a bit awkward. So it feels a lot more natural in our native tongue, I guess. But there's a lot of it's sprinkled with English terms everywhere. Like all the attacks, all the terms, all the weapons. We mostly use English. So yeah.
I lived in Netherlands when I was in high school for about 3 months, but that's many lifetimes ago, and my knowledge of the languages is down to a couple of few choice phrases.
I'd love to hear them.
not on the show.
Oh, okay. It's those kind of phrases. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, we'll talk later. Yeah,
absolutely.
After a few stout beers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be fun.
Well, Eric, I really want to thank you for your time and joining us on the show. It has been an absolute pleasure. I hope it wasn't as stressful and scary as you originally thought it was going to be.
No, it was not that scary. No, no, it was really no. It was really comfortable and a lot of fun. Yeah, a lot of fun to talk to you.
See, that way if future guests listen to the show, they can go, well, I won't be scared. And then we can terrify them.
Yeah.
So, if you want to find Eric online, his his Twitter/X. I hate the term X. His handle is Black Dragon BE. What's the BE for?
Belgium. Yeah, I know it's so stupid. I know.
No, it's not. That's creative.
I mean, that whole Black Dragon BE, that was cool when I was like 12 and or 11 when I came up with it. But the older I get, the more I cringe every time I have to tell someone. To be honest.
Oh, that's
but
okay.
I can't get rid of it because it's tied to me now. So I don't know.
Oh no, I've got a couple of usernames that I've had since I was very young, and they're original and they hold. So Eric is Black Dragon BE. If you want to reach Jenn, it's jenn.codes, predominantly on LinkedIn. I am Podcast Drew, DRU. We're going to do something different this season, and we're not going to tell you what's coming up in the future episodes, and that's because we are actually recording many of our episodes early in the season so that we can decide which ones we want to put on when. We do, of course, invite you to tune in for all sorts of wonderful topics coming up this season. We're going to talk about how to make the best of AI tools. We're going to be talking about Apple's new Vision Pro, which is going to make Eric cringe because he is into everything but Apple.
Oh, yeah. But I do love AI, so.
Yes. Have you seen the Vision Pro?
Yeah, I did. I watched the event when they announced it.
Mm-hmm.
God, that price. Yeah.
That's what everybody's saying.
Yeah, the gasps. Yeah.
But I want to thank Jenn as my co-host. Again, I want to thank Suzanne for all the wonderful research she's done. And a wonderful episode. Thank you so much again, Eric, for joining us. Until our next episode, I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening. And always, please leave a positive feedback on your podcast app of choice. Thank you. We'll see you again in about 2 weeks.
Thanks.
I wish we had time to play the entire interview, but if you want to see the entire interview with all the material that we didn't have to edit out, watch YouTube for the full video version.